everybody, welcome to the Bruce Growth channel. Today with a video that is very important to me. It's a growing topic that you hear more and more often nowadays, and it's also something that I think some of you may also be suffering from. If you do, then you have come to the right place. Now, in my years growing up, I have often moved from place to place and only had a few long-lasting connections. I often lamented that others had this perfect social environment. And as I entered university, this inner unhappiness never really left me. Time and time again, I asked myself, what am I doing wrong? Do people simply not like me? And I didn't really want to blame myself, but simply decided to let these worries be. Don't pull on the weeds to force them to grow, as they say. But it did feel like a constant chore of being around people, so only that this feeling of loneliness wouldn't wash over me. It was stressful even because I couldn't spend 2 days just to myself without calling people for the sake of it or arranging meetings with people that I didn't like all too much just so that I actually felt better. Standing alone is better than standing with people that don't value you. Unknown. This quote speaks a lot about recognizing your worth and the negative impact that people around you may have on you. More often than not, I would text friends if they wanted to go out the next evening, only to get a reply after the arranged evening. I realized that I started to not only grow desperate, but also act that way too. People were actively avoiding me because I was attention-starved and honestly noticeably pushy. Maybe I was asking the wrong people, but maybe I also had to start working on myself rather than blaming others for it. It's not that these people don't mean well, they quite possibly just weren't my kind of people. So in June, I decided to go on a short 3-day hiking trip in the Alps. Really just to take in the emptiness of the mountains. You see, when I was a teen, I spent most of my time skiing, living in a small mountain town and just growing alienated by larger areas. I was captivated by the tall and imposing presence of the mountains, and I knew that if I were to go to bed, they would still be there when I woke up. They have this unexplainable presence that fills me with happiness and energy. To me, they are a source of energy. You may have a different place that gives you energy, so you need to figure out what it is. All the birds have flown up and gone. A lonely cloud floats leisurely by. We never tire of looking at each other. Only the mountain and I. Li Po. It wasn't a long trip by far. If anything, it was a short, enjoyable adventure. It was me simply hiking in solitude and feeling empowered by being alone. The weather was terrible. It was raining like crazy, and I was really just asking myself aloud that, why the heck am I actually doing this? Should I just turn around? Maybe if I was joined by somebody else, I would have. But I noticed the difference between being alone and feeling lonely. This is kind of the key to this lesson. You can learn to draw energy from being alone and enjoy it, even if you tend to be extro or introverted. You see, when I recently started this channel, I did not want to make purely informational videos. I wanted these videos to be tied into documenting my lessons, putting them into practice, and sharing my personal experience with you. Anyway, my hiking trip was over as quickly as it started, and the weather sure as heck wasn't nice to me. But what was nice was that I got to walk on my own pace, stopping when I wanted to admire the view, and simply taking in nature peacefully. Somebody else may have not stopped at the spots to take in the view like me, but I'm sure they would have also felt annoyed when I kept walking on others. The following week, I would go on a 4-day trekking adventure with some of my friends, which, despite being a nice adventure, lacked the characteristics that I mentioned above. My idea is that if you want to learn to enjoy being by yourself, you need to put yourself into a situation where you're forced to be all on your own. Be it by undertaking a solo project, going on a short trip, and so on. What is important is that you spend extended time on an activity, preferably outside, where you have no option but to focus on the present moment and do something entirely dependent on your own actions. I want to share 3 things that I think are part of the process to be happier when being alone. Lose codependency. At the beginning of this book, the little prince lives on his little planet together with the rose, doing his daily tasks like tearing up the little baobab sprouts to prevent them from destroying his planet. He is mostly happy doing so, but once betrayed by the rose's lies, he leaves his home looking for companionship. He realized how lonely he actually is. He felt both socially and emotionally isolated. He goes on to meet many adults like the king ruling over his tiny planet, but he can never form any meaningful connections. Possibly because of the lack of selflessness and love. However, in his desperation, he'd meet the pilot, and they would go on to form a mutually beneficial friendship. He was cured of his loneliness. You'd finally realize his character developed when he said that his star would just be one of many stars to look up to. Or in the author's words, so you will love looking up at them all. They will all be your friends. Towards the end, in chapter 21, he meets the fox, who changes his perception of friendship and love. He realized that the rose was special because the prince tamed her. She is different from all the other roses because their relationship is inherently unique. Overcome with love, he chooses to return, finally appreciating love and friendship and stopping to feel lonely. The author also states that the prince was very selfish previously, but ultimately he died by the snake's bite, which was supposed to send him back to his home planet where he could live with the rose. There were many theories, some of the idea that he merely committed suicide. I read that if we went with the author's interpretation of grown-ups, it may have just been as stated and we are merely overcomplicating things. The little prince may truly have been reunited with the rose and lived happily ever after. No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. Buddha. This is only my interpretation of the book. I believe books such as Little Prince have a lot of different things that going on regarding theories, certain outcomes or meanings. These things that I'm about to say are really just part of my take. But to put this quote into practice, I want to use our little protagonist as an example. At the beginning of the book, I would say he was codependent. He needed others to make him happy before learning to comfortably live by himself. As I mentioned previously, you become much more relaxed and outgoing when you start becoming less codependent and clingy and learn to value your friends that actually like you for who you are. The prince tried to understand and befriend some of the adults, but ultimately passed up on the opportunity when he realized that he could not relate to them in any way. It's a lesson well put into practice that merely involves you going out and doing things on your own. Whether it be going out to party all alone, going traveling, or simply enjoy simple things such as cooking. And when the opportunity arises, spend time with people. But don't force yourself because you feel like these people will make your day any better. Practice mindfulness. The principle of living in the present is a very well-known one. When I wrote my high school thesis in my last year of school, I focused on this topic specifically and read quite a lot of books on this. No book can guide you as well as Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, to keep your mind in the present. Tolle describes how there is a truth that lives within you, that requires radical change to awaken. The longer negative habits exist within you, the harder it will be to replace them with good ones. He speaks of the past, present, and future, but actively convinces you that only the present matters to be enlightened. Let go of old pain, ignore worries that lie in the future. Why is this important for letting go of the feeling of loneliness? Well, according to The Power of Now, our mind underlies a strict duality. At the age of 29, Eckhart suffered from anxiety and asked himself, am I one or two? If I cannot live with myself, then there must be two of me, the I and the self, that I cannot live with. To that thought, he asked himself, maybe, I thought, only one of them is real. There is the mind that is creating the suffering and the I that is perceiving it. To become enlightened is to disidentify yourself with your mind and stay in the present, where all thoughts of what could have been or could be and worries of change of in the future are forgotten. Those two agents of chaos, past and future, are what create this dual nature. You are not your thoughts. Not everything that happens needs a label. I found myself having internal dialogues with people quite often on things that I should have said differently when I didn't reach my desired outcome. I ended up yearning for a different presence by fabricating a different and more desired past. But ultimately, staying in the present lets you enjoy the moment and not think about the pains and sufferings of being all alone. To achieve non-duality, to be aware in the moment, is mostly done through simple meditation. Not saying you should cross it and close your eyes. Limit your interaction with devices, take an upright position, and take in your surroundings. Try to comfortably stay still. What do you feel? What is the temperature? Is it windy around you or are you sitting inside? Feel your weight on the chair, your feet touching the ground. What do you hear around you? Breathe in and breathe out. Now, when you sit on a bus, drive in your car, or simply wait for something or someone, take in your surroundings for one time at a day. Ignore that annoying monkey sitting in your head and become mindful. Make use of simple meditation to achieve mindfulness now and then. Realize how enlightened and relaxed you feel. Suddenly, worries that you may have had don't feel quite as important anymore, right? I suggest tools The Power of Now if you want to feel more enlightened or simply learn more about this topic. Become part of a community. Being happy is a personal thing. It doesn't have anything to do with anyone else. Loneliness is not solitude, although social contact does foster happiness. The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin is a 1-year-long experiment in which the author talks a lot about her passions and individual happiness. A big takeaway was that to combat loneliness, you must find and join communities. Sure, you must learn to thrive on your own, but at the same time, not all of us want to become lone wolves. It's important to find a common interest to make meaningful and lasting connections. Studies show that each common interest between people increases the chances for a lasting relationship and boosts life satisfaction. However, important is that, in Rubin's words, my understanding of fun is definitely not the same as other people's. I enjoy solitary, quiet things. Even the sports I enjoy are quiet ones. Reading is fun, both books and blogs. Understand that even though you feel how others may like the things that they find fun, you aren't meant to enjoy them. For example, only because you're enthusiastically told how fun kickboxing is, you aren't expected to immediately get a course subscription and instead get a free trial class to get a feel for whether you may enjoy it or not. Not only should you foster happiness, but others too. Become a more supportive friend by making compliments, listen attentively, and offering free advice should anyone ask for it. According to the Mental Health Foundation, studies have shown that acts of kindness lead to increased well-being. It activates our nucleus accumbens, aka our brain's reward center, releasing dopamine and contributing to us feeling happier and fulfilled. And we're already at the end. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Please check out the description for the author's blogs and sources that I've used that may interest you. Please like the video for the algorithm and subscribe to the channel. Remember, we're all on an endless journey of learning together. Goodbye.